Welcome back to North Dakota Today. We are focusing on women's health this week, and today we are talking about menopause. We are talking a little bit about the signs, the symptoms, knowing that we're progressing. A big question is, what's the age when we should expect this to happen? And I feel like, I feel like it's only for old people, like 90. But the ages are much younger than you would think.
Yeah,
yes.
A lot younger.
So the average age that women go through menopause in the United States is 51.
And that's young.
Yes, and some women can go through it earlier, whether they have had their ovaries surgically removed or if they've had chemotherapy or radiation as well. They can go through it earlier. And then if women do go through menopause before the age of 40, we call that primary ovarian insufficiency, and those women need more of a specialist.
Okay.
Which it would be very difficult.
Absolutely.
To go through that.
Having those symptoms before 40.
Yeah, that's not fun.
I found this very interesting, and it makes sense. You told us this in the break. Sometimes the greatest stuff comes in the break.
Yeah, right. We talk about other things.
We talk to young girls about going through puberty. Your mom talks to you about, when you're first going to get your period. It doesn't seem like that same conversation is in place as often with moms talking to their daughters about menopause. And why is that? And does that affect the conversation later in life?
Absolutely. So I talk to a lot of women about things that they may not have known comes with the menopause transition, and they might feel embarrassed in that appointment, like, oh, I wish I knew that, or I should have known that. But it's not your fault that you don't know this, because we're not talking about it like we prepared adolescents for puberty too. And it's such a natural part of life, and so that's what our providers are here for too. We can equip you with the tools to know what to expect. So start the conversation with your provider.
Mm-hmm. And so what are some things that we should expect? Like, what do you want to tell people when it comes to menopause? What do you want them to know? What are you sharing?
So the biggest thing that I think women might not know is the symptoms that come a little bit later in the menopause transition, usually around 2 to 4 years after you've actually had your last menstrual period. And that's more the vaginal dryness and the urinary problems. I think the urinary problems are what kind of catches women off guard. So women may have symptoms of a urinary tract infection when indeed they do not after they get the lab testing done. Or they have many lab-confirmed urinary tract infections, and they keep thinking, why am I having these symptoms, and feel alone? And I want women to know that that's incredibly common in the menopause transition, and not many women know about that. And there's plenty of things we can do to help with that, both over-the-counter options your providers can recommend, as well as prescriptions.
Why are we too scared to ask? Why are we embarrassed when we're going through this process?
I don't have a good answer to that question. I think it's different per woman and how you've grown up and the conversations you've been around as well, and your comfort level with talking about it with your provider.
Okay. Well, and I think everybody maybe goes through this at a different stage in their life or age as well, because as you said, it could start as early as 40, and to talk with your girlfriends about it or something like that, some of those ladies aren't going through it and you're the only one, so then you're like feeling kind of badly about that. But I don't know, that's kind of what I think about is just that age. And how long? This is one thing when you mentioned this, I'm like, how long does it last?
Sure. It's another variable per woman. Everyone's so different and every individual is different. Some women, unfortunately, can have hot flashes for up to 10 years into the menopause transition. They're the unlucky ones, but it can be that long for some women.
So that's why it's important to talk to your provider and have a plan in place.
Yeah,
absolutely.
10 years.
And get some sort of comfort and relief from that medical provider, because I mean, no matter how many years, it probably feels like 10, that you're going through this. But on average, it's not obviously that long, because that's scary. That's scary to think about. So what would the average time frame be?
Anywhere from like 1 to 4 years, I would say, is probably average for the more distressing symptoms like hot flashes.
Okay. Talk to your doctor, but I always like to ask this, what's a great resource for people who want to maybe go online and do a little research, something that's approved by you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would recommend the North American Menopause Society, or NAMS. They have really great resources for patients online, and they're very data driven as well. So it can be a hard world to navigate with all the resources out there.
Yeah,
So
there's
Yeah.
always something when you
Yes.
start Googling.
No, there's something out there.
yes.
Anyway,
Thank you so much.
Bailey.
Yeah,
Very
thanks
good
for having
conversation.
me.
Appreciate it.
Coming up on North Dakota Today, Rise Together. We're visiting with the president of Gigi's Playhouse Fargo to talk about the devastating fire that wiped out their building and their plan to rebuild the Playhouse.